Welcome to Becoming Boss C. Before we dive in, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Note that I do have a general video about the Certified Internal Auditor exam if you want a more holistic view. There is also a video about Part 1 specifically of the CIA exam. Those are linked above. So, congratulations, you have either decided to pursue the Certified Internal Audit journey or you're still contemplating. Either way, this video will be helpful to you. Part 2 of the CIA exam is simply about the practice of internal auditing. I took the exam after only being an internal auditor for a little over a year, so you do not need an extensive internal auditing experience to pass the exam. Let's look at the exam syllabus. Part 2, Practice of Internal Auditing, has 100 multiple choice questions, which you will answer within 2 hours or 120 minutes. This gives you roughly 72 seconds to answer each question. The CIA exam Part 2 aligns with the IIA's International Professional Practices Framework, or IPPF, and includes the following 4 domains: managing the internal audit activity, planning the engagement, performing the engagement, and communicating results and monitoring progress. Part 2 of the CIA exam tests your knowledge, skills, and abilities related to the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing, particularly the performance standards. As you can see, Domain 1, managing the internal audit activity, and Domain 2, planning the engagement, each account for 20% of the exam, for a total 40% of the exam. Domain 3, performing the engagement, is 40%, which is a big chunk of points, so be sure to be proficient in that domain. Finally, Domain 4, communicating results and monitoring progress, accounts for another 20% of the exam. I hope this helps you see which areas deserve extra study time and practice. Let's dive deeper into the syllabus by looking at each domain. For your benefit, I have compiled the specific objectives of each domain. Be sure to pause this video to read each domain in detail, and beside each objective, you will either see a P or a B. P represents an objective that you should have a proficient or more detailed knowledge of, and B represents an objective that you should have a basic knowledge of. I found those distinctions to be helpful while I did my final review. Let's discuss CIA exam tips. First, do not project the questions into your own organization's practices, policies, and environments. The exam specifically focuses on the IIA's professional standards and guidance, so answer accordingly to the IIA's Code of Ethics, Mandatory Guidance, International Professional Practices Framework, and Recommended Guidance. All of these should be in your study materials. Next, try to eliminate obviously wrong answers as quickly as you can. Then, hopefully, you can narrow the answer down to at least 2 choices. For example, choices A and C. If choice A is more complete of an answer and somewhat includes choice C, then you should select choice A as it is the best generalized answer. Do not spend too much time on a question. Remember, you only have 72 seconds to answer each question. And while some questions may be shorter than others, you should keep an eye on the exam clock. If you notice that you are going over the minute mark, select your first impression of the best answer. Flag the question and move on. If you have time at the end of the exam, a review page will show you all the questions that you flagged so you can revisit them at the end. Given that there is a bit of a time constraint, I still do not think you should rush. Be sure to read the question twice if necessary. Look out for keywords such as most, least, major, minor, all, not, true, false, and except. Pay attention to absolute condition words such as always, never, and every. Remember, there is no penalty for answering incorrectly, so answer each question with an educated guess. Let's discuss study tips. I recommend that you create a realistic study schedule. At first, you may think that you can work full-time, for example, and also study 20 hours a week while juggling other responsibilities. For some of us, this may not be realistic. Pull out the calendar and figure out when you want to start studying, which days you can study, and the amount of time you aim to study on those days. For example, I started studying for Part 2 on February 10th, and then I took the exam around September 25th. For a total of 7 months of studying. It definitely should not take you 7 months to study, so do not wait too long to take the exam like I did. Preparation depends on your professional experience, education, and the amount of time you can study each week. That leads us to the next step. Set a goal exam date and communicate it to those you trust the most and your accountability partners. Ask your friends or family to check in on your progress occasionally. This can make a big difference in sticking to your schedule and missing your target exam dates. What was my study method? To make sure that I was over-prepared for Part 2's exam, I read the study book once, watched the video lectures once, read the IIA's professional standards twice, answered about 1,500 multiple choice questions, and then read the focus notes. Yeah, you heard me right. 1,500 multiple choice questions. After that, I felt confident that I knew the domain material at a proficient level. I highly recommend answering lots of practice questions and taking practice exams. While you may be familiar with just the general concepts and the IIA standards, it is important to also be familiar with the format of the exam questions. We all know that you are smart and you're a great professional, but please study specifically for this test. Finally, take a practice exam about a week or two before your scheduled exam dates. If you make around an 80% or above, then you are most likely ready for the exam. If you score in the 70s, do not fret. A teeny tiny bit more studying should help. Remember to understand why the answer you selected was incorrect if you got it wrong. Most study materials provide explanations why the correct answer was correct and why the other options were incorrect. Even if you answer correctly, be sure to read why the answer was correct to confirm your understanding. If you are a visual person like me, reading the book and watching video lectures are the best way to imprint those concepts in your mind. If you are an auditory learner, you need to hear the lesson. So consider investing in audio lectures and creating a mnemonic for key principles. I want to be as detailed as possible to help you all actually understand my study method. So my first step was to read the IIA's professional standards. As I understood that all of the questions really align with the IIA professional standards, and I had to have a great proficient knowledge of those in order to expect to pass the exam. Then I would read a lesson. And then after reading that lesson, I would watch the related video lecture. Again, I told you all that I used Wiley CIA exam review for my lectures and for my books. Then I would answer the full study book questions. So all of the study books should have a list of questions for each section, and that helped me to really make sure that I understood the concepts, etc. Then I repeated the process for the next lesson. So after I finished one section, I would move on to the next session by reading, then watching the video, and then by answering the questions. Then I would answer the full test bank after I finished the whole book. So after reading all of the domains of the study book, I would then move on to the test bank that Wiley provided, and that was over 800 questions that I would have to answer. And I would retake the questions until I got them all right and until I understood why those answers were correct. After that long process, I then read the focus notes. So Wiley provides a study book, and they also provide a condensed version of the book, which are the focus notes. After reading the focus notes, I took a practice exam. And again, the aim is to score at least 80% or higher. Remember, a passing score for the Certified Internal Auditor exam is 600 out of the possible 750 points. So after I took my practice exam, depending on how well I did, I would do a final review afterwards to make sure that I understood all the concepts, even the ones that I may have had difficulties with during my first practice or first time studying. And then I would skim over the study books, the focus notes, and make sure that I understood why certain answers were correct and why certain answers were incorrect. So I hope this detailed study method helps you. We made it. I promised that this would be a pretty detailed guide for you. So if you made it this far, comment below, I made it. I'll try to individually like your comment. Let's answer some practice questions. The first question is from Domain 1, Managing the Internal Audit Activity. In order to determine the extent of audit tests to be performed during fieldwork, preparing the audit program should be the next step after completing the A. Preliminary survey, B. Assignment of audit staff, C. Survey of company policies, or D. Time budgets for audit tasks. During the preliminary phase, the internal auditor becomes acquainted with the audit client and decides how much reliance can be placed on the internal control system. The survey allows the auditor to initially determine whether to extend or limit audit tests. The auditor then prepares the audit program for the engagement. So the answer is A, preliminary survey. The next question is from Domain 2, Planning the Engagement. Selecting high impact and high visibility auditable activities to audit requires which of the following approaches? A, process-based, B, risk-based, C, knowledge-based, or D, experience-based. Audits and controls reduce risks and protect assets. So by definition, high impact and high visibility activities are high risk due to their nature. Therefore, they require a risk-based review approach to ensure that all potential risks are properly managed. The answer is B, risk-based. The next question is from Domain 3, Performing the Engagement. A work paper is complete when it A, complies with the auditing department's format requirements, B, satisfies the audit objective for which it is developed, C, is clear, concise, and accurate, or D, contains all the elements of a finding. The main objective of a work paper is to support the particular purpose for which the work paper was generated. So, in this case, the answer is B, satisfies the objective for which it was developed. And I included a bonus question from Domain 3 since it accounts for 40% of the exam. Which of the following is generally not true when evaluating the persuasiveness of evidence? A, obtained under conditions of strong controls rather than weak controls. B, known by an auditor's personal knowledge rather than from a third-party confirmation. C, obtained from an external source rather than an internal source. Or D, verified by internally maintained documents rather than by written inquiry of a third party. Note that this question includes a tricky phrase, not true. So be careful when answering these types of questions. Written inquiry or confirmation obtained from external third parties is more persuasive than potentially biased internal company records. So the answer here is D, verified by internally maintained documents rather than by written inquiry of a third party. The next question is from Domain 4, Communicating results and monitoring progress. Which of the following is not the purpose of an audit report? A, inform, B, get results, C, persuade, or D, assign responsibility. Look out for the tricky word here, which is not. Assigning responsibility is a function of management, not the function or responsibility of the internal audit department. Therefore, D, assign responsibility, is the correct answer. The audit report is certainly used to inform and persuade the audit client and to get results or corrective actions to address the findings. If you made it this far, comment "I survived" in the comment section below, because that was a very thorough exercise. We went through about 5 practice questions for the exam. By the way, those questions were adapted from the Wiley CIA Review 2021 edition. Let's chat about preparing for exam day. Be sure to get plenty of rest for exam day. I have a not so good habit of cramming the notes the night before my exam. And while it helped me pass the test, I was still a bit sluggish and tired prior to taking the test. So please don't be like me. Get your rest. In addition, try to pick the right time of day to take the exam. If you are a morning person, try an 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. testing time. If you are more alert in the evening, try a 4 p.m. testing time. Additionally, do not underestimate the time it will take to travel to your testing site. Be familiar with the testing site location prior to exam day and aim to arrive at least 30 minutes before your testing appointment time. You should bring multiple forms of picture identification to the testing site. This can be a driver's license, unexpired passports, or a state identification card. Unless you finish the exam early, you'll be sitting for about 2 hours, so be sure to wear comfortable clothing to the test center. Thank you for watching, and good luck on your pursuit to become a certified internal auditor. If you made it to the end, please like, comment, and subscribe. Part 3 is coming next. If you have more specific questions, comment below and be sure to come back when you pass Part 2. I want to celebrate with you. Stay blessed and stay Boss C.